Stop scrolling for a second. If getting rich were obvious, most people would already be rich. But they're not. Not because they lack information, not because they're lazy, but because wealth doesn't show up the way people expect it to. Most people think getting rich is loud. Upgrades, announcements, visible proof. But real wealth is quiet. So quiet that many people walk straight past it while thinking they're falling behind. Here's the uncomfortable paradox most people never hear. The phase where you're actually building wealth often feels worse than the phase where you're wasting money. No applause, no dopamine, no feeling of arrival, just restraint. And that's where most people quietly quit, not because they failed, but because they mistook silence for stagnation. Today, I want to show you 8 subtle signs that you may already be getting rich, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. More importantly, I want you to see where people unknowingly step off the path so you don't do it by accident. Because wealth doesn't vanish suddenly. People abandon it slowly. I spend an unreasonable amount of time studying money, behavior, and why two people with the same income can end up with completely different futures. If you've ever felt like you're doing the right things, but nothing feels different yet, stay with me. This isn't motivation, it's pattern recognition. And timing matters more than effort. Sign number 1. You live below your means, and it doesn't feel like progress. This is the foundation, and it's also the most misunderstood sign. Living below your means doesn't feel powerful. It doesn't feel impressive. No one rewards you for it. You're not extreme. You're not depriving yourself. You've simply built a life that costs less than what you earn. And that gap, even a modest one, is everything. Let's look at 2 people. Ethan earns $72,000 a year. He spends about $54,000. That $18,000 difference doesn't change his lifestyle. It doesn't upgrade his image, but it creates margin. Now look at Noah. Same income, spends $76,000. Every raise disappears. Every bonus is already assigned. He looks successful. He feels tight. Here's the part most people miss. Living below your means feels like nothing is happening. No feedback. No signal you're winning. And because humans rely on feedback, this is where many people stop, even though it's the most important behavior of all. A single stat to anchor this. Over half of people earning 6 figures still live paycheck to paycheck. Income doesn't create freedom. Margin does. If you've consistently earned more than you spend, even slightly, you've already done something most people never sustain. And if you've done it for more than a year, you're ahead, whether it feels like it or not. Sign number 2. You've stopped chasing fast money. This is where the path narrows, because this phase feels boring. You stop hunting quick wins. You stop reacting to every opportunity. You stop needing money to move now. Instead, you start respecting time, years, decades. Consistency becomes more important than excitement. Let's look at Sarah. Sarah invests $450 a month into simple, diversified assets. She doesn't check daily. She doesn't panic on downturns. She doesn't talk about it. When markets drop, she keeps contributing. Now look at Leo. Leo is always switching. New strategy, new asset, new shortcut. He's active. He's informed. But he never stays long enough for compounding to matter. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Fast money habits quietly erase slow wealth progress. And this is where most people unknowingly step off the path. Not because they quit, but because patience stopped feeling productive. If you've stayed consistent through boredom, flat returns, or delayed gratification, that's not stagnation. That's a psychological skill most people never build. But patience alone isn't enough, because patience without protection eventually breaks. Which brings us to the next sign. Sign number 3. You have a financial buffer, and it doesn't feel like relief. This one confuses people because they expect relief and don't feel it. You're no longer paycheck to paycheck. You have money sitting quietly, untouched, an emergency fund, a buffer, breathing room. And yet, you don't feel rich. You don't feel safe. You just feel stable. That stability is the upgrade. Most people only understand the value of a buffer after it saves them. You built yours before a crisis arrived. That's foresight. If an unexpected bill is an inconvenience, not a panic, you've crossed an invisible line. If income stopped tomorrow and you wouldn't spiral immediately, you're ahead of most people. But here's the line people don't notice until it's too late. This is where stability gets mistaken for arrival. People relax, they loosen discipline, they assume momentum will carry itself. It won't. And this is where many people quietly slide backward without realizing it. Because stability feels safe, but safety without intention decays. Which brings us to the psychological shifts that determine whether progress compounds or stalls. Part 2. The psychological narrowing, where fewer people continue. If Part 1 was about building the base, this is where the path quietly tightens. Not because it gets harder, but because it gets easier to justify stopping. This is where progress becomes optional, and optional progress usually disappears. Sign number 4. Your income grew, but your life didn't expand with it. This sign rarely feels like a win. You earn more, a raise, a better role, higher deposits, but your day-to-day life looks unchanged. Same apartment, same routines, same baseline spending. Most people inflate their lifestyle automatically. Income rises, spending follows. But if you're quietly getting rich, you resist that reflex. Let's look at Oliver. At 26, Oliver earns $58,000 and lives on $44,000. At 31, he earns $82,000. His lifestyle rises to $47,000. That extra $35,000 doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't change how he looks, but it changes how long he can survive a setback. Now compare that to Lucas. Same income growth, different outcome. Bigger apartment, new car payment, more fixed costs. 5 years later, both worked hard. Only one built leverage. Here's the uncomfortable line most people avoid. Lifestyle inflation is rarely a decision, it's a drift. And once it locks in, freedom gets expensive to buy back. If your income rose and your first instinct wasn't, what can I upgrade, but how much of this can I keep? You didn't just earn more, you leveled up psychologically. Sign number 5. You've stopped measuring your life against other people's upgrades. This shift is subtle, but permanent. You still notice what others buy. You just don't internalize it. Their timelines stop becoming instructions. You understand something most people don't. Visible wealth often comes with invisible pressure. Debt, stress, delayed choice. Take Nina. Her friend buys a $70,000 SUV. Nina doesn't feel envy. She doesn't feel superior. She feels neutral. She knows her paid-off car and growing investments serve her future better. Now look at Evan. Same situation, same SUV. Evan feels pressure, not desire. He upgrades to avoid feeling behind. 2 years later, the excitement is gone. The payment remains. Here's the ranking moment. Answer it honestly. When you see someone else's upgrade, do you feel tempted or do you feel clear? Clarity is a form of wealth, and once you stop reacting to other people's spending, money stops being emotional. That's when decision-making gets sharper. But there's a side effect most people don't expect. When money stops being emotional, it stops being urgent. And urgency, when unmanaged, quietly fades into passivity. Sign number 6. Money is no longer the main thing you think about. This is where things feel almost anticlimactic. You expected excitement. You got silence. Your finances aren't perfect, but they're handled. Savings move automatically. Bills pay themselves. Investments compound quietly. Money isn't shouting for attention anymore, and that's a good thing. But it's also a risk. Because when money becomes background noise, people stop checking the system. Let's look at Hannah. She reviews her finances quarterly, rebalances annually. Most days, she doesn't think about money at all. That's intentional calm. Now compare that to Derek. Derek also doesn't think about money much anymore, but not because of systems, because of avoidance. He stopped tracking, stopped reviewing, stopped adjusting. Both feel calm, only one is protected. Here's the quiet danger line. Comfort and control feel identical until something breaks. If money has faded into the background of your life, ask yourself this: is it quiet because it's automated, or quiet because you stopped paying attention? That distinction decides whether progress compounds or slowly leaks away. And it sets up the next shift, the one that changes how you value time itself. Sign number 7. You protect time more than you chase savings. This is a quieter upgrade, but a revealing one. You start asking a different question. Is this worth my time? Not just your money. You stop glorifying busy. You stop optimizing every dollar. You begin paying for convenience, not luxury. Because time becomes the scarce resource. Take Emma. She pays for help with things she could do herself, not because she's careless, but because she understands leverage. 3 hours saved becomes 3 hours spent intentionally. Now look at Josh. Josh does everything himself to save money. Errands consume weekends. Energy stays low. Weeks blur together. He's busy, but not free. Here's the line most people never notice until it's too late. You can always earn more money. You can't compound lost time. If you've started trading small amounts of money to protect large blocks of time, not status, you've crossed a level most people never reach. And there's only one sign left. It determines whether everything you've built stabilizes or becomes fragile again. Part 3. The decision that makes this irreversible. This final sign isn't about income. It isn't about habits. It's about ownership. And without it, everything else slowly erodes. Sign number 8. You stopped waiting for permission. Most people never do. This is where progress locks in. Not because life gets easier, but because your excuses disappear. You stop saying, "I'll start when things improve." You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You don't deny reality. You don't pretend the system is fair. You simply stop negotiating with circumstances. "I can't afford that" becomes, "That's not a priority right now." That sentence alone changes how power flows in your life. Let's look at one last comparison. Caleb earns a modest income in an expensive city. Instead of arguing with the environment, he adapts. Roommates instead of solo rent. Public transit instead of a car payment. Simple routines instead of lifestyle upgrades. Not forever, long enough. When people ask why he hasn't leveled up yet, he doesn't defend himself. He's clear. "I'm building my base first." Now look at Aaron. Same income, same city. Aaron spends his energy explaining why progress is impossible. Rent is unfair. Wages are stagnant. Everything is expensive. None of that is false, but none of it compounds. 5 years pass. Caleb has options, flexibility, momentum. Aaron has reasons. Here's the irreversible cost sentence most people avoid thinking about. The cost of waiting isn't failure. It's delayed compounding you can never recover. You don't get those years back. The quiet warning that comes too late for most. If you've recognized yourself in several of these signs, you're in a rare phase. Not struggling, not finished, stable. And stability is deceptive because it feels safe. Most people don't fail loudly. They relax too early. They stop tracking. They stop reviewing. They assume momentum will handle itself. It won't. Momentum is not self-sustaining. It requires light, consistent pressure. Remove that pressure, and progress decays silently. The final self-ranking question. Don't skip this. Ask yourself this, honestly. If nothing changed externally, no raise, no windfall, no perfect timing, Would your current habits still move you forward 5 years from now? If the answer is yes, you're already ahead. Not visibly, not dramatically, but structurally. And structure is what survives recessions, layoffs, and uncertainty. So if it doesn't feel like you're getting rich yet, that may be the clearest sign that you are. Because the people who feel rich early usually stop doing the work, and the people who keep doing the work rarely feel rich. Until one day they look back and realize how far they've come. Quietly, deliberately, exactly the way it was supposed to happen.